I hear you, but it's always burning, so...
Well, this is the thing. It does feel like the world is burning right now more than it has. We'll save that for Tottenham. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet SkyFF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name's Suj.
My name is James. Welcome back, boss.
Did you miss me?
Yeah, a little
Took
bit,
you
yeah.
about a week and a half to get the fucking intro right, but you did by the end, so, you know. I was close to sticking a poll out, like, Clayton's rapping and you've got the intro sorted. Do I need to come back? And I nearly didn't, but, you know. There was me in the morning yesterday, refresh, EasyJet, cancel my flight, cancel my flight, cancel my flight. And they didn't. Unfortunately, it actually landed 15 minutes earlier.
Unfortunately, it landed.
15 minutes earlier than scheduled, and I was back in England. I'm back here on the podcast. I am indeed back here on the podcast. SkyFF, James. And like I said, I had to check how many points I got and what even happened over the weekend.
Have you been doing stuff, or have you been...
I made a transfer. I sold Jordan Bayer on Saturday. So I'm on 109 points. My rank is where it was, 9K. Yeah. I'd only earmarked 2 transfers, if I wanted to do. One was selling Bayer because he was out. And for him, I bought Foster. I didn't have enough money.
Yeah, I didn't mind that move.
I didn't have enough money to get Tsimikas. I was 0.1 short. So if I did have enough money to get Tsimikas, then cool. But also the problem with buying Tsimikas and using up all my budget, it was then knock-on transfers. So Sonny to Saka would never have been a possibility, and so on and so on and so on. So that was a move I'd made. Okay, so I was in Portugal and Spain. So...
I was in Portugal and Spain?
I was in Portugal and Spain.
Are you in both?
Yeah, I drove on Friday from Portugal to Spain, a 2-hour drive across the border to Seville, and came back on the Monday. Now, here's the annoying thing, James. There's a 1-hour time difference between Portugal and Spain, which I didn't know and realise.
What do you mean you didn't know?
You're only driving like 2 hours up the road, right? You wouldn't think there'd be a time change.
From here to there.
No. So Portugal's on the same time as the UK right now. Yeah. So it's cool. Life is easy, right? Don't have to adjust anything. We're driving across to Spain. I was like, oh, the time's changed by an hour. So cool, no problem.
So which deadline did you miss?
Mondays. When I came back from Spain to Portugal, it was 8:20 and I thought it was 7:20. But obviously the time had gone back the other way and I was like, oh, never mind. But anyway.
And of course, because I went to the game, I did forget to message you.
And remind me. It's all good. It's fine. It's all good. So I made the Bayer to Foster transfer, leaving some money in the bank for future moves. The only move I had earmarked to do on the Monday was Ruben Diaz to Romero.
Okay.
That was it. So it wasn't like a captaincy move or anything like that.
Yeah.
I had Salah on the Saturday. I decided to captain him over the robot. Just felt like the home fixture.
Oh, you went with Mo, yeah?
Yeah, early kickoff against Everton. I thought, let me go with Mo. Let me just go with Mo.
That so easily could have been the other way around, by the way.
It came round right. Did you go robot? Did you?
Yeah. Okay. Against Brighton and how open they are.
Sure. And then, obviously, on the Sunday, I had Diaby and Bowen. And I decided to go Diaby based on the fact that it's home fixture for Villa and their home record has been ridiculous for so long now. What is it, 11 straight wins?
I think so, in the Premier League,
this season. So I decided that Diaby as the home player was the better shot. I didn't think there was much in it, Diaby versus Bowen.
No, I can understand why you made that
And
call.
obviously, I'd made the move to Diaby a few weeks earlier when I didn't have enough money to get Watkins. So that's come back to sting me quite badly. I had Sonny on Monday. That's been sitting there for a little while. So that was okay. So net, I think the biggest hit for me this weekend was not owning Watkins and not captaining Watkins. Other than that, I've stayed pretty flat. And the only move I've made is the Bayer to Foster move, which
points this week?
109.
Okay.
Alisson got me 9, Saliba 4, Colwill 3, Ruben Diaz just a 1-pointer.
It was sub.
Yeah, I know. And that's what hurts even more about not moving Diaz onto Romero. But Diaz will be back now, so I'm not sure if I actually want to do the Romero move on the Friday night.
No,
It doesn't make sense for me.
It wouldn't bother.
Anymore.
As long as Sonny's playing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's gone now. I'm going to put that out of my mind. It is what it is. I would have. I don't know how long.
Diaz will play if you did want to make it in a couple of weeks. Obviously, Diaz will play United and Bournemouth before then. Romero plays again against Chelsea.
Yeah.
On the Monday night, so it is one you can go back for if you wish to do so.
No. I'll see. I'm going to go Sonny to Saka. Sorry, I was talking about my points. Alisson 9-pointer, Saliba 4, Colwill 3, Diaz 1, 32 off Salah, 26 off Sonny, Bowen 10-pointer, Diaby 4, Haaland and Alvarez 9 each, and just a couple of Lyle Foster. I don't know about Lyle Foster. He's just a filler, isn't he, really,
yes.
To be honest with you. So some weeks will be a 5-pointer, some weeks will be a 2-pointer, and that's it.
They've got good fixtures for a sustained period. I think it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
the problem with him will more come if suddenly you sit there and you're like, oh, now you're cut off of Watkins.
Yeah.
Unless you move, say, Alvarez to him,
yeah.
Which is no gains. You're without Watkins again this week. That's the only problem with that sort of structure.
Yeah, I don't see myself captaining Watkins this week, though. I'm 120 points off the top 100. It's not huge. Considering the transfers in hand and what have you.
So you're 9K. How many left?
39.
39?
Yeah.
So you've come down a bit.
I was only used one this weekend. I was on 40 before anyway. I was always around that number, yeah.
That feels a little bit like the average kind of count going around at the moment. I think of most engaged players might be a little bit higher. I'm certainly...
Maybe one or two higher. You're down to what, 36, 37?
35.
Okay.
2 more to come this week as well.
You must be top 2K? Top 3K?
Top 1K, mate.
Okay, nice.
I'm up to 910th. 145 points this week.
That's tasty. Did you make a couple of moves there? You went all in on
transfers.
Spurs, right?
Yeah, I added Romero, as I'd said I was likely to do. I added Romero and Captain Son in for Diaz and Silva, and I did move Bayer to Tsimikas on Saturday lunchtime. I literally realised right at the end of last week's podcast with Sean, it wasn't a case of I realised that I had the money to go Bayer to Tsimikas. I knew I had the money, but I didn't think I could re-network it to still do the moves that I wanted to do. So the only sacrifice I had to make was selling Silva this week rather than next week and keeping Colwill for this week rather than selling him last week. That's the only difference that it caused, basically. So my intention this week would be to go Colwill now to Dunk on Sunday, Maddison to Saliba Saturday. We're all going to be without something we want at the moment, and for me it looks like it's going to be Bukayo Saka. But I do think at least with Saliba I can be competitive to him. I think the importance of Arsenal, if you have none, has become much bigger with the announcement of the first weekend of December fixtures. We should have the rest by now. Of course we don't. The Premier League's own word on Friday or whenever it was early next week, but I do know that their early next weeks normally mean Friday. They definitely work on a different week to everybody else. We'll talk about that in a sec. So returns for me this week: Pope 11, Tsimikas 7, Romero 10, Salah 16, Maddison 10, Bowen 10, Son 26, Haaland 18, Alvarez 9, Watkins 24. Like, that might be as good as it gets in any week, any kind of single week all season.
Yeah,
That's
decent.
Some madness, really. The 3 players I took out got 1 point between the 3 of them. Diaz sub, Silva was a 0, and obviously no show Bayer. So Bayer, I felt I had to get it done and move it. It was too good an opportunity that just suddenly landed in my lap to ignore it. And I know there's a number of people who wanted to give it the extra week to make sure that Tsimikas would stay in. I know there's a nervousness with that he came off early. I think he came off early because they had no requirement for him on the pitch anymore playing against 10 men. They basically just played a back 2 and let Trent float in front of that, basically. I said no requirement for him. I think he'll play the majority of the games. Is he going to get hit tiers much and all that? No. But it was nice and refreshing to see him taking the outswinging corners from the left-hand side. So there is a little bit of an attacking threat there. When you sit down, you think about it, Tsimikas to Bayer is such a massive upgrade, really. Yeah. Just on the fact he's playing for Liverpool rather than Burnley. And Liverpool, obviously, themselves have just come into this great run of fixtures. So it was a straightforward one for me. I did have a consciousness that it was going to completely wipe out Saka from my plan. Essentially, the only way I'd go to Saka right now would be sacrificing Haaland or Salah, and I I cannot make that justification to move that here. You can say, oh, well, yeah, maybe do it better captaincy Saturday. Yeah, but then what am I doing? Reversing the transfer to get Haaland back when he's playing Bournemouth and Saka's playing Newcastle. Doesn't make enough sense for me. But as I said, I think Arsenal's way more important because of that announcement of the weekend fixtures, Saturday the 2nd, Sunday the 3rd. Essentially, only one game has moved, which is Manchester City against Tottenham from Saturday the 2nd to the 4:30pm kickoff on the Sunday. All the other 4 games that are the 2 o'clocks obviously would have all been the Sunday anyway because those teams play in the Europa the midweek before. What that's left with is Arsenal's clear best captaincy option on Saturday the 2nd, in my opinion, at home to Wolves. In terms of taking him on, the other top teams that play that day are Newcastle against Manchester United. They play each other. You could make a case for a Brentford player against Luton, maybe. You could make a case for Lyle Foster against Sheffield United, Serge, if you wish, or Jordan Bayer for those who are still sitting there. But realistically, Arsenal against Wolves Saturday the 2nd is best captaincy. And the very likely knock-on of that is now no single game day on Tuesday the 5th of December. It's not impossible, but it would be bizarre now if it ends up in a single game day. So we had a thought process that it could be Wolves v Burnley or Everton v Newcastle. I think those 2 games will probably still happen on that night, but so will Arsenal's trip to Luton. And so now we've got Saturday the 2nd and Tuesday the 5th. They're the best captaincy option. This coming Saturday, they're the best captaincy option. And you'd certainly make a case Saturday the 11th. They're the best captaincy option when they host Burnley as well, though there are alternatives. Manchester United host Luton and Tottenham at the early kickoff away to Wolves. But that's now, I would say, 4 of their next 6 fixtures on their day. They're the best. It does make me think that I should probably have 2 as a contingency. But I've been thinking, well, if something did happen to Saliba, I'd just get another Arsenal alternative. That's where I'm thinking. There's no gain. They always go first as well. So Tottenham to Arsenal, basically, or Crystal Palace to Arsenal, if you can network it. Although, don't go Raya. Not because of his performances, but also just remember he'll miss the Brentford game on Saturday 25th because he'll be ineligible. But if you did have an Anderson to Saliba, for example, you could make work, then I don't mind that sort of thing. But the only thing to say on that is you'd be coming off of 2 bad Palace fixtures when they're about to come into good fixtures. So it does feel like Tottenham to Arsenal. That's the only way into them early. They're not going to go on not first, I think, until they play Brighton on Sunday, December the 17th. It's too late.
My weekend, I feel quite hamstrung, to be honest with you, because Sonny, I've got on Friday. But I've only got 2 players on the Saturday, Foster and Colwill.
You're going to go Son to Saka, aren't you? Have you got the money?
No, I've got the money for Son to Martinelli, which I'll probably just do that.
Oh, you've got Saliba?
I've already got Saliba.
Okay.
So I might move it on to Martinelli and just try and play it differently because
Captain Saliba's fine Saturday, Serge.
It is, but then they've got such good home fixtures like Sheffield United, Burnley, Wolves. I want a piece of that. I actually want 2 or 3, but I need to find some money from somewhere.
But I look at mine once I make my moves this weekend, which is planned, as I said, Maddison to Saliba and then Colwill to Dunk. Like I feel from there I'm pretty set. I don't see me doing a lot. I would have the intention from there, if these guys stay fit and continue to perform fine, I'm not moving anything. So I'm hoping others are trying to catch up to. I feel like I'm getting to part of a new template almost. The sacrifice is Saka, and everyone's got to have one, I think, sacrifice for a player they really want. Others would be saying, I'd sacrifice Kieran Trippier. Not having Kieran Trippier's hurt, but I'm less bothered about it now with what's coming up with the fixtures. And I do have Nick Pope as Newcastle coverage ongoing as well. So, yeah, it's going to put me down to 33 this weekend. But then touch wood, that's me kind of logging out for a good while, even including at the moment, for me, Fulham Wolves would be skip at the moment.
Yeah.
On Monday the 27th of November.
Yeah. You know what the man upstairs does to plans? Laughs at them, Jays, because injuries, red cards, yellow cards, giving them out like sweets. So
it's not a shortage of options, right?
No, that's it.
I'd look at someone like Mitoma, who's going to have a lot of Sunday fixtures, as like a potential, like an insurance, who I wouldn't go anywhere near because I'll probably go with Dunk. But something like that could be a great differential coming up. I like the Martinelli shout. The only concern I'd have with that is minutes.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I think I need to do a few things a little bit differently to try and make up a little bit of ground, or the alternative to doing things a little bit differently is just sit tight on my hands, because I've got captaincy coverage. Like you said, Saliba is decent, right? So looking at the upcoming days, I've got Sonny. I'll just talk about captaincy. I've got Sonny, so that's not going to be a problem. I could captain Saliba for Sheffield United at home. That's not going to be a problem.
I mean, that's definitely my intention.
Salah, that's not going to be a problem for me for the Nottingham Forest game.
Yep.
And in the week after, I've got a Haaland, Salah, and then I could hold Sonny through if I didn't go to Saka. And I'd rather...
Or you can come back for that Romero move as well.
Yeah, potentially that week. So I could just do nothing for the next few days. And the other players that I've got in there that maybe are lesser owned, Diaby. All right, yeah. It's Diaby versus Watkins, isn't it? Because if people don't own Diaby, they do. And I can just hold my breath for Luton and Forest and see what happens, because he's still lively. He's still there or thereabouts. It just hasn't quite clicked as it did at the start of the season.
You'd feel better if Watkins was sitting
Of course
there,
I would. But like you said, can't have them all. Bowen's got a couple of all right fixtures as well. Everton at home looks good.
What have you got in the bank?
That's a very good question. Enough to go from Sonny to Martinelli's 500,000. 500,000, James. But yeah, I said, captaincy, I haven't got any bad options.
What are you going to do about Bayer? Oh, you've done it. You've done Foster, haven't you? So you're staying with Foster.
Yeah, but for the next few, Foster's fine. And yeah, I don't have any captaincy issues until that Wolves-Fulham game, and that looks to me like a skip.
The one glaring one also that I'm intending to go without on my plans is the security blanket.
Rodri,
who's back.
Yeah, I had always earmarked Ruben Diaz as my money to get back to Rodri, but then I need to find another defender because I'm in a 3-4-3 at the moment. So
I think I'm going to continue to go without. He's arguably pound for pound the kind of best player in the game near enough, but I'm going with players who've got explosiveness over this period, people like Jarrod Bowen, who I've committed to. And I can't make it work. And it's far more important for me to have the Arsenal captaincy option than Rodri over this period. That's clear. I spoke about that as a possibility last week. That's now absolutely happened now. Because I think that if it had just been Sheffield United, I could have made the case to say, well, can I get through this week with Pope, for example? Like, it's fine. But the fact that we're probably now looking at 4 where they're best, 100% it's worth getting an Arsenal win. And I think, to be honest, if you don't have Arsenal on Saturday, then something Tottenham should be sacrificed. Even if that means re-networking it. For example, you went Son to Saliba on Saturday and then re-manoeuvred something else you wanted to get rid of to get Son back when Tottenham then play Chelsea Monday week, for example. I'd look at that sort of chain move. So, yeah, having something Arsenal's going to look important. As I said, I think, though, I've come to the conclusion that it's going to break too much for me to get Saka. There should be clean sheets and passing tiers definitely in there for Saliba over this period. And if something does happen to him, then it's probably a case of just getting like Gabriel instead, for example. That would be my take. Saliba is definitely the Arsenal defender to get, clearly, at the moment. There's a little bit of doubt over Zinchenko's minutes. Apparently Tomiyasu played really well last night as well for Arsenal. And I know there's a few calls for Tomiyasu to come in for him. Saliba's cheaper. I mean, Ben White's another potential option, but it's just nowhere near the passing numbers. Saliba's out passing Gabriel like every game near enough, which is kind of similar to what's happening with Romero and Van der Ven. These ones, like, don't take the concession on it, get the best one. And in this weird case, Saliba's cheaper anyway, so.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know they were playing in Seville yesterday. I'm glad I got out there Monday morning, mate. I was in the car out of Seville at like 9:30 in the morning.
Down there last night.
Yeah, tell me about it. Even Sunday. So we were there Friday.
There's no roof.
Friday,
I was laughing.
Friday to Monday. And Friday and Saturday, I was sitting out on the terraces in the sunshine, mate. 25 degrees having a beer. Sunday, Monday, yes. Very, very, very wet. But they came away with a victory from there, so they'll be happy with that.
Just a couple of notes on the December fixtures, which I'm going to guess we're going to get before the weekend.
No, James. In between finishing recording this podcast and hitting publish, that's when the Premier League are going to stitch us up and release them, mate.
A reminder, we've heard Palace v Brighton potentially Thursday 21st, which I think would mean Villa against Sheffield United Friday 22nd. There'll be entry points before for both teams, so that's not a drama from that perspective. Certainly, obviously, because Brighton and Villa obviously play in Europa, there's obviously going to be entry points, so that's not a concern. There is also speculation about Wolves-Chelsea being on Christmas Eve with a potential 12 p.m. kickoff. Seems to have been what's suggested. Sack that off, like, sod it. I'd say it's like a desperation. Oh, we've got to put a game on the Sunday at 12 o'clock. Don't do that nonsense, man. Just put it on the Saturday evening or something if that's the game you want to show. Again, if that does happen, you could obviously enter Chelsea at that point. There's a couple of fixtures before that are nice. Everton away, Sheffield United. Another thing, the Everton game could end up being Sunday the 10th, which would be absolutely ideal if that's the case to go back into Chelsea. Because we've got a really, really good December period where there's others coming into more difficult runs. So I kind of hope at the moment, so is that kind of after these two this weekend, that might even be the next transfer I'm sort of looking at.
Cole Palmer, cheap and cheerful.
I like that as an enabling option. I don't mind that if it's something I've thought about is if I can get Palmer in, then I can go for like Son, for example. Not Son, sorry, Saka. But then I'm going to be without Son. I'm going to be without something somewhere. Yep. And I think the team's quite nicely set now. In a weird way, the easiest one to sacrifice, arguably, is Bowen. Because it's probably not anywhere that I captain him. But I just love the fixtures he's got. I think that's a really great option.
Yeah, agreed.
And I don't mind if people want to buy him this Sunday. So there's almost be forcing it about for forcing it about. If I go with, I guess it's the sort of thing you have to weigh up. If I was looking at it new now, would I go, say, Saka and Palmer rather than, say, Alvarez and Bowen? Yeah, because of the power of those captaincies, I probably would. But also, I don't want to make those moves.
No.
I'm going to leave it be.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, looking at the home fixtures for Bowen, Everton, Forest, Palace, Wolves, and then you've got Burnley and Fulham away in between. He's a set and forget, isn't he, really, all the way through? And he's still racking up the goals and points at the moment. So, yeah, I don't mind that at all.
You and Sonny captaincy Friday, I take it.
I am indeed.
Yeah, it'd be same for me. I do think it'd be low scoring. It does bring Romero back to the table, but the clean sheet is less likely than it was on Monday night, purely because it's an away game. And Fulham also have as many problems scoring goals as Palace do. So, yeah, I'd still think it's probably Son. It's just a capability.
Yeah.
From a captaincy perspective, you're better off doing that. Bissouma,
and
I would expect to play for those who've got.
For ownership as well, like Sonny's more highly owned than Romero. I'm making that as an assumption. Let's see.
Romero's jumped up to over 50%, mate.
Well, Sonny top 1K is 81% and 28 overall.
Yeah, so I mean, I just don't think that needs to gamble, to be honest.
Yep.
My intention would be to keep Sonny through as well.
Romero's lower in the top 1K and lower overall. So yeah, I'd go Sonny, even if it's an ownership play.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Maddison's ownership's big as well. If you look at that 61% top 1,000 at the moment. So this is part where I'd been saying for a few weeks I didn't think one Tottenham was enough, really, for these couple of games. Maddison is almost definitely the one I'll sacrifice on Saturday. Obviously, if suddenly it did land where Son gets injured, then he's the one that goes instead. And I might look at something else like Maddison to Palmer suddenly. That maybe then I'm less fussy about keeping Maddison. I'm happy to let him go, to be honest.
Yep.
Saturday, I suppose Saka's best choice, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I mean, my backup's there is Saliba, to be honest with you. If I decide not to do anything and keep my powder dry, then it'll be Saliba.
I do think Thiago Silva, for those who've still got, is a very good alternative. But I couldn't make the case to pick it over an Arsenal player.
Yep.
Obviously, you will see the Chelsea team, which might be particularly useful for those still on Colwell, because obviously he played centre-back against Arsenal. But for his long term, I don't necessarily look at that as a positive, because Mark Cucurella actually played pretty well, and he has done the last few games for Chelsea. So Disasai was kind of doubtful. Does he come back in? Badia Shield's close to fitness. I'd be getting concerned about Colwell now. And I think if you still got, like I've got, moving on after Saturday makes complete sense, I think. Yep. Similar to nearly all the Chelsea players, unless you specifically want to keep it as a backup captaincy option for Monday the 6th for obviously the Tottenham-Chelsea single game day. But the problem you've got with that is the way the fixtures work, you're then going to definitely hold that Chelsea player through Manchester City and Newcastle away and then the next two. So it would make way more sense still to just go back into Tottenham at that point, if necessary. Sunday, I think I'll be Mo. Such,
Yeah, I'll be Mo as well. But I think if people want to go rogue and go Watkins, if you own at home to Luton, I don't think that's a bad shout. To be honest with you,
it's rogue. Like he's 81% in the top thousands. It's not even.
But
rogue.
I think a lot will own Salah, and then obviously Haaland's got a home. It's an away fixture for Haaland, isn't it? I think people will swerve Haaland, but then you can't forget that Man United are not in any great shakes
I
at all.
would not be at all surprised if Haaland does really well.
Like it's one of those where you can see City are the kind of team that will exploit Manchester United's weaknesses. They can exploit anyone's weaknesses, and they're the ones that could potentially go and do it and hurt them. So it's going to be quite.
Salah is more likely to go nuts though than Haaland, isn't he? If we just look at it that way, I think.
Is he like Forest? Are going to just sit in.
The ownership,
2 banks of 4.
But the ownership now is close enough that it's not. It's got to be Haaland, I don't think. I'm pretty sure, the likes of Dan Cox will do their polls and stuff. I'm fairly certain Salah will come out as well the highest.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
Sky
you're
on
going
Sunday.
him, I'm going him. Yeah. So I think that kind of answers it in a nutshell, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, I think it'd be Mo Sunday, yeah.
Cool. Did we learn anything from the games at the weekend, Jace?
Yes, we learned that Ibrahim Konate just managed to get to 60 passes. I don't know if that was before or after he should have been sent off. Trent, 67. I think under the circumstances, pretty disappointing, actually. Certainly was moving back into a midfield position. For those who've got excess money, going into Trent or Virgil van Dijk as a differential, as Sean mentioned on the Sky Pod last week, I really don't mind as a good differential option for this period. And I think Tsimikas, is he going to play every game? No. Is he worth paying 0.6 more other than just leaving Bayer in your team if you can do that sort of thing? Yeah. I think seriously consider him to get him in would be my take. Shots on target for Mo, which obviously came from the 2 goals. Szoboszlai and McAllister also hit passing. I guess Liverpool's the fact that Trent's only on sort of 67 passes is probably because Liverpool were so high and so dominant. They spent a lot of the game obviously playing in and around Everton's penalty area. From the Bournemouth-Wolves game, nothing hugely to speak of, although I'd certainly recommend for those who like their tactics, having a look back at Gary O'Neill's bit on Monday Night Football was really good, actually. Talking about tactical manipulation of 4v3s and perhaps them not playing the system we think they've been playing a little bit, which might be emphasised by Ray and Aït-Nouri getting a passing tier at Bournemouth. That obviously comes with the caveat that obviously Lewis Cook was a bit of an idiot in getting sent off, and he probably wouldn't have got to that without Cook being sent off. Kilman and Dawson just outside the passes. I would say on those guys, I would be surprised if they got to passing tier in that single game day at Fulham on Monday the 27th, but we'll look at it again nearer the time. Neto, as in Pedro Neto, 48 passes completed.
That's a lot for a winger.
It's massive. And another assist for him and another assist for Hwang as well. They were both booked for Bournemouth. Difficult afternoon, massive game against Burnley at the weekend, who were thumped at Brentford. That's despite James Trafford making 6 saves. Josh Cullen completed 61 passes. So for the record, Dairo O'Shea played where Jordan Bayer would have played, and it's not to say Bayer wouldn't have completed more, but for the record, Dairo O'Shea had 42 passes completed. There were shots here for Visser, Morpay, and Bumo.
Who?
And Bumo.
Who? He's dead to me.
Why are you so harsh?
Well, in the weeks that I owned him,
he's done nothing for ages. So he got rid. So he's going to score at some point, isn't he?
Oh, he did, didn't he?
What price is Morpay? It's a serious question.
He's 0.2 much million.
What is he?
7.3.
Oh, no, it's too much. Sod that. No. But he probably is going to get a run of games for them, but their fixtures turn tougher now. Chelsea, West Ham, Liverpool, Arsenal's their next 4. No interest. Not huge numbers for the Manchester City players against Brighton. We shouldn't be hugely surprised about that. So Kanji, who will miss the Manchester derby through suspension, 81 passes completed. Rodri back with 82. Josko Vardiol 66, just a 56 for Kyle Walker, and just a 44 for John Stones, who played about 5 different positions in the game. Shots here for Alvarez and Haaland. For Brighton, interestingly, Suj, what price is Igor Julio?
Igor Julio.
So he completed more passes than Lewis Dunk on Saturday. 80 completed to Dunk's 72. Pascal Gross also 77. Brighton had a lot more of the ball second half. They weren't good in the first half at all, Brighton. What price is Julio?
Not what I'd consider cheap, 7.6.
Yeah, it's not really worth the saving on versus Dunk. But I think it's one to monitor, let's say. Because I think now he's probably got the favouritism where he's going to continue to play. I would just take the view that is way too risky to probably go him at this moment rather than Dunk on Sunday. But I think he's a player that needs monitoring. Because if he's going to play there regularly, he won't be far off Dunk's numbers. And there's obviously a saving to be made there. Mitoma hit shots here. I mean, should have scored really. He had a one-on-one v the game as well. And I think he's a really good potential differential option. Admittedly, probably without captaincy over these coming weeks. Brighton's fixtures get good from Sunday. And I think for anyone who's probably not on Dunk like me, it's go back and buy. You still got him?
Nope. 8.3 for Lewis Dunk.
Going now?
I'll find a way eventually, probably. But
Start thinking about it.
It's not priority this weekend, I would say.
I mean, look, if you don't do it this Sunday, you can come back in a couple of Sundays. But you do look at Fulham and Everton as the next two and think, right, well, put his tier 2 on the board now. I mean, he's hitting them even in games like this, isn't he? Yeah. Still without a clean sheet yet, though, this season. Should be noted. But you've got to think with the fixtures that come. Fulham, Everton, Sheffield United, Forest, Chelsea, Brentford, Burnley. It's the next 7. With 4 of them at home. There's got to be stuff in there, surely. For Newcastle, another passing tier for Kieran Trippier. Just got into tier 2 with 70. Came off on the 69th minute. Obviously got an assist, clean sheet banked. It did get a booking as well. Probably would have outpassed. Jamal Lascelles finished 85 and Fabian Schär 77. Nice little save tier for Nick Pope. Palace did have quite a number of big chances in the game and yet never really looked like scoring at the same time. Tackle tier for Tyreek Mitchell in that fixture. Another save tier for Sam Johnston, who I think, again, there should be a consciousness, like I said, on Palace. If you've been on Johnston or you've been on Anderson, I think generally it's keep and not move off Friday. Burnley, Everton, Luton, the next 3, West Ham after that, but immediately after the Luton game is the Fulham Wolves Monday night. So you could take a view to hold and then obviously something like Johnston to Sarr or Leno, arguably might even be Sarr at that point, or Anderson into your Netos or something defensively, Ream, Diop if he's back fit maybe. Not Calvin Bassey because he's not very good at passing out of his right foot, as you might have noticed. Goal for Callum Wilson as well. Only completed 6 passes in 70 minutes. Such. Nottingham Forest and Luton. Save tier for Kaminsky. Shot tier for Wood. 4 shots on target to go with 2 goals. And Murillo, who's quite impressed defensively, with 70 passes completed for tier 2, which I think, again, indicates what we said in the past. There can be some big numbers against Luton for centre-backs. Levi Colwell hitting passing tier for Chelsea against Arsenal was quite surprising because of Arsenal had a lot of the ball. Chelsea played extremely well. Yep. We did have more, 63 passes versus Silva's 51, which feels unusual, but then let's also factor in that Colwell basically played Silva's position because Silva moved to right-sided centre-back. Gabriel, tier 2, passing 71, but 18 more for William Saliba at 89, and it's a recurring theme, this. Bukayo Saka, I think, has got his tackle tier. I know there was a lot of crying about it. Like, basically, as long as players get shit before a Friday, guys, like, don't panic about it. They will update stuff. They've been doing it. So he had tackle tier. Jorginho was 1 pass short, 59. The other player that's also kind of a getter at any time, potentially, for Arsenal, of course, is Declan Rice. 46.
No tears, though.
No, but he's in and around. He scored, obviously. 46 passes, 3 tackles, 1. So not far off. And you wouldn't necessarily expect anything in this particular fixture. Some of these coming up, he'll hit passing tier. And if for whatever reason you are really struggling to go, well, I've got a back 4 and I can't go to Saliba, or you can't get the Saka for financials, like Declan in midfield is certainly worth considering. Yep. It'll tick over great. Sheffield United, Manchester United. Harry Maguire, hero last night with a goal.
Again. Is that his second Champions League goal now, I think? He scored another goal this season as well.
I think that might be correct. I saw someone tweet this morning he's got more Champions League goals this season than Haaland. And I did think, then
it must be.
Haaland's playing in Switzerland tonight. So Maguire, 79 passes completed. A lot more than Johnny Evans, 47. And obviously, Onana with penalty save last night. 5 saves completed as well, which I don't know if that should be alarm.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's good that he's made some saves, but it's also alarm that he's had to make 5 saves during the course of the game.
2-1 away at Sheffield United is not the outcome that they probably wanted.
There was a tackle tier for Sofian Amrabat, also 56 passes completed, but if he's not going to pick up passing in a game like this, probably not going to be too many, but I'm sure he's the sort of one who'll tick over for tackles. Bruno Fernandes, 47 passes completed. Vinicius Souza amongst those who got tackles for Sheffield United. Villa were excellent against your team, Serge, on Sunday. We'll talk about that more on our Patreon pod later. Passing tier for Luiz and Kamara. Pau Torres, 54. Konsa, 56. Josh Short. Matty Cash in the tackles again, ticking over quite nicely. 5 tackles, 1. Ollie Watkins, 2 shots on target. There was some that wanted it to be 3, but I think he had an effort that was given as offside, and that's why he didn't get tier 2. Jarrod Bowen also with a shot here, although I got to be honest, have you got Bowen as well?
I have indeed.
I mean, for me, that's an own goal. Lucky as hell to get them points.
Yeah,
I think the shot's going wide.
The distance probably helps him. Like, the closer you are, sometimes
they never showed an angle that was definitive.
No,
and they never talked about it either.
I think they just couldn't be bothered. I just think they couldn't be bothered, and because it was from such a distance, I thought it's just look. He's had a shot from distance, just deal with it. If it was closer, I think they're more prone to looking at angles and that kind of thing.
Anyone who went Tottenham assets will be very, very pleased, I would suggest, on Monday, because you've had a return from basically everything, including Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, 76 passes who stood in for Bissouma. I genuinely would expect Bissouma to come back into the team on Friday. Note of caution, obviously he's on 4 yellows. On that note as well, guys, if you are making transfers, it's the sort of thing that's worth double-checking at this stage.
Yep.
Just check your guys on a certain amount of yellows. 3 is risky. 4, you should think twice about what you're doing, really, at this stage. Mickey van der Ven, 61 passes completed, just into Tier 1. Christian Romero, 104. Massive. We spoke about this the last few weeks. He's getting so many more than Van der Ven. It's just not even a discussion, really, from that perspective. Vicario was saved here, and as I said, he'll tick over and he'll get a lot of these. Those who took that option, I think that's fine. Pedro Porro won tackles. Udogi was the only one to go without. Obviously, came off fairly early, so didn't bank the clean sheet either. Papsar, 42 passes, might have hit tier 1 if he'd stayed on the pitch. Richarlison returned an assist. Kulusevski blanked. Overindulgence, he had a number of shooting opportunities, just didn't do it. Maddison and Sonny, obviously both with goals. Sonny with an assist, both hit shots here. Paulinho, Suj, 7 tackles, 1. Every time I watch him, I think he's a better footballer. I think he was on tackle tier after about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've seen that with him before, where he gets them really quickly and then the game kind of settles down a little bit.
Absolute monster ball winner. But probably a little bit too pricey this year, particularly when you consider someone like even like Christian Norgard, who's been really good in the past for tackle tiers. He's like significantly cheaper. So it's just not, and I think even that, when the Fulham Wolves comes round, it's probably not your option. It's too expensive, really, I think.
Yep.
Which he should be after what he achieved last year.
Season. Yeah. They were never going to leave him below 8 million.
No.
Cool. That's a good wrap of all of the games there, James. We're going to come on to some of the questions on x.com and see what we can rattle off. FPL Hindsight.
X.com.
Yeah, that's what it is, mate. It's called X. FPL Hindsight. Yeah, you can, but, ain't going to help. You're swimming against the tide.
Mate, Elon's not going to sponsor you, mate.
It doesn't matter. It's his app. He paid fucking whatever billion, zillion for it. If it's his app, if he wants to call it X, he can call it X. If he wants to call it Elon.com, it's his money he's losing.
Anyway,
I wonder if they're still losing money. They must be.
Do some Twitter questions.
FPL Hindsight. What's the best place to check in-game stats, James?
ffstuff.co.uk, sitting in front of my screen. It's great for the Sky Match Centre. Absolutely brilliant for Sky. So, yeah, ffstuff.co.uk.
Perfect. FPL Heavyweight and SkyFF. When to get back Rodri?
Probably not. Is the honest answer. I mean, I do have a consciousness that there will be lots of opportunities. For example, it's away, but obviously City's fixtures coming up. United Bournemouth, they'll obviously smash the passes. Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham is a tough run of fixtures, but there's entry points obviously on 3 Sundays there. And I'd also think there'll be an entry point against Aston Villa on Wednesday the 6th as well, possibly from Arsenal, because I think the Arsenal game will be Tuesday the 5th against Luton, and that's their last good fixture, if you will. Then they play Villa, Brighton, Liverpool. But of course, 2 after that, Rodri obviously misses a game because of the Club World Cup. But he might not miss a game because the Brentford game, which we think is obviously going to be in early January, this rearrangement, and I just presume the overhaul will move back a few days to allow that to happen. That would be my instinct. So it might be that Rodri doesn't end up with a game less. It might be that you're happy having it as the extra at the end. Coming into Christmas period, more likely to get rotation is something you'd factor in with a player like that, but probably not, in the sense that he's kind of just had his break, really, isn't he?
Yep.
From suspension. How many bookings is he on? Do we know?
I don't, James.
Have a look at that in a second, please, mate. I think he's obviously, he commits fouls every game, doesn't he? And all I'd say as well is in some of these more difficult ones where teams can potentially break fast, so to be honest, United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham all fall into that category. I wouldn't be surprised if he picks up a couple of yellows in there. You haven't found it, have you?
No.
I'll look while you do the next question.
Okie dokie. We have Dark Invader SkyFF needs an 8.0 midfielder. Who is the best option? I feel Mitoma because of the fixture run. I don't think that's a bad shout, to be fair. I like the Bowens, the Abbeys, Rice we mentioned. They're all more than 8.0.
Got to be a midfielder, yeah?
Well, so he says, I mean, unless you really want to drop down to Cole Palmer and then give yourself money to do something elsewhere, which is also
a good shout
option. I think it's always interesting to try and find another solution rather than spending all of the money if you don't need to. But otherwise, Mitoma, I think, is also still a decent option.
Yeah,
their fixtures are great.
Failing that, it's coming down to your enabler ones, the sort of Nakamba and stuff like that. It's like a new defensive template. Feels like it's going to form now with those like me who are not on Saliba and Dunk trying to get there. And obviously, we've seen how much Romero's ownership has grown. And then probably you've got others who are either on Trippier, Cash or Tsimikas, subject to their makeups. I mean, suddenly we're saying like no Manchester City defensive. Most won't have any City defensive now. I know you're still sitting there on Diaz, but it'll be a decision to make soon for you, I think.
Nathan's got a question on Pascal Gross as an asset. Always seems to tick along nicely when he's fit. One of their most nailed players. I don't know if he does tick along nicely. Does he, James? He's kind of
does.
like,
I mean, look, is it passing tier 2 at City at the weekend?
Yeah, but then it was 2 against Liverpool, but then 13 against Manchester United, but then 2 against Newcastle, but then 14 against West Ham, but then 1 against Wolves. It's where I say ticking along nicely. He's not a 5-5-5-5-5 player. He's feast or famine is what it looks like with Pascal Gross.
I think he'll play nearly all the games, if that helps. But because the fixtures are so good for them coming up, I would, yes, rather have an explosiveness for someone like Mitoma. Rodri's on 3 yellow cards, by the way.
Yeah, it won't be long before he gets his 4th and 5th.
You have to think with a player like that there will be a game he misses somewhere. I'm sort of looking at this going, I hope you get booked this weekend, and I hope you get booked against Liverpool on Saturday the 25th of November. That would be perfect.
James Hill,
for no selfish reasons of wanting to miss the Tottenham game at all,
is going to move on Son and Maddison for Saka and Dunk. He says next weekend. I'm assuming he means this weekend.
This weekend, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I get it. Just, that's just checking on yourself and you're going, are you happy to captain Romero if you've gone down that route against Chelsea Monday the 6th, which I think is fine, reasonable, or are you going to come back? And I've spoken about making these sort of moves to potentially come back from something else worse. Sure. But you won't want to go back. It's worth saying you won't want to go back from Saka to Son. Because Saka plays Burnley straight after. So after Tottenham play Chelsea, they play Wolves on the Saturday. But then Saka plays Burnley that day. So you're not going to, if you need to go back, you're not going to want to go back from Saka. You just need to be conscious of that.
Josh Wilkinson can ask 2 questions. At what point is it no longer winnable? It's definitely not now. I'd probably say a few weeks after overhaul.
I think the game is really beginning to form into a template and settle down. I think it's about to happen right now. I think the other thing is we'll see what happens with the December announcements. But historically, if there's single game days, I think they like to have the big clubs on round now. So I don't think it will be, okay, might need to go back to a Chelsea player as an example. But I don't think, certainly the end bit of the overhaul, I don't think we're going to have things like Forest against Bournemouth just suddenly rocking up on Christmas Eve as a single game day, like a bad example. But I don't think they want that. If they're going to have a single game day over Christmas, they want one of the big traditional six plus, say, Newcastle involved, for an example. So I don't think that will hurt at the end. So I think Friday the 15th and Monday the 11th, there might be a couple, or there might be one in there that might cause a problem. But if it's anything like Fulham Wolves, my intention just be to leave it be. And I think that there's so many good options at the moment. There's more people thinking like that. Plus, it's experiences some of us have been through already this year with Bayer, not in a Forest assets, just thinking, I've wasted shit here. Sod that. And that's generally my take. So I think as that as well. I don't think there'll be a huge amount in December that will manipulate people to think they want to make a lot of transfers in that period. And obviously, with each passing week, you're getting closer to the overhaul. So I think these players now that have got big ownership are likely to stay on whatever it settles on after this weekend. Because I think, say, there'll still be a few jumping about of obviously like the Tottenham assets, for example. But then afterwards, I think it's going to really settle down the game. So if you're miles off after this weekend, you're probably going to begin to find it difficult to make ground, I think. But it's all subjective, right? How many transfers have you got left? How close are you to the team that you want, etc.? How many transfers do you see yourself making? Like everybody's circumstance will be different. If you're sitting there now at 5k with 20 transfers left, you can't win it, in my opinion. I don't suppose anybody listening or watching is in that position. No. So there's a long way to go. We're sort of coming up to quarter of the season. I suppose we're basically at quarter now, aren't we? Yep. It's a long way to go.
Yeah, I think the halfway point, I feel like my second half could be as good as your first half, for example. So it could easily flip. But once you start getting beyond that halfway point, then it starts getting more and more difficult.
I think these next couple of months, again, it's all subjective to injuries and stuff like that, might end up quite template, and you just got to be selective of which ones you go without. So for me, it's like Saka, Trippier, Rodri, if you will. For other people, for you at the moment, it's like Watkins and a couple of others. And it's that, and probably in most cases, I think holding your choices. I do think a big template is forming, and I think it will largely stick for quite a while. And I think naturally after overhaul, there'll be a template as well, which is part why I'm fine with the fact that I've been aggressive and used the number of transfers I've used.
Cool. That's a wrap, James, on the questions. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. There's a few that we just covered off, basic stuff around Bayer and that kind of stuff. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sending your questions in. And we'll be back at you next week with another episode of Sky Fantasy Football. Tomorrow, James, you got CTC?
Yeah, Bournemouth, Burnley, Neil Grover, Jack Toner tomorrow.
Nice. If you want to support the show, you can head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL. We'd love to have you as a part of the community over there on Slack.
Live show.
That's coming. James has got a planner that he produces on Excel that's really useful to help you see the gaps between fixtures, particularly if you're a Sky Fantasy Football Manager, and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. November the 5th, which is not next weekend, but the weekend after now, James. So we're only talking about a week and a half to 2 weeks away. Head over to Eventbrite, where you can buy tickets. If you follow James on Twitter, Planet FPL Pod, the link is there. Get yourself.
You can also see Nico dancing on Twitter if you want as well.
The tickets, the tickets are there just to help us understand.
I don't know if Nico's aware of that yet, but I'm just dropping it in.
Play. If it's either him dancing or Clayton rapping, one or the other. If you pick up a ticket, the money's just going to charity. It's all going to Game Week 39. It's just so we can help and understand the numbers. So please head over and do that. We'd love to see you down in Waterloo. We start at 2 p.m. is when the first game is. We will be there earlier than that, and it goes all the way through till sort of they kick us out.
When they kick us out,
exactly that. So it's in partnership with our friends at FPL Meets. They organise a lot of awesome free meetups all around the world. And so, please do come and show support and come and say hi at the live show on the 5th of November as well. Any fireworks that day, James?
I mean, it might be for Watkins and Salah owners, as Villa go to Forest and Liverpool go to Luton. So it'll be very interesting games from a fantasy perspective as well, whatever format you play.
Nice one, listeners. Remember the 5th of November. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Play it your way. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man child.